Carlin Hartman. We welcome you to the show, my friend. Thanks so much for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure to get to know you over the last few days. We had Jonathan Safir last week, and he was kind enough to make the introduction. So thanks so much for coming on, Carlin. It's been, 7 weeks since you guys won the national championship. I know you guys have been all over the country. You guys have had a packed schedule, recruiting, everything else after that. But what's been going through your mind these last 7 weeks?
Well, we got right into re-recruiting the roster to make sure we had a good team again for 25-26. So we did that. We also made sure we followed our guys around, the NBA draft process, Thomas Haugh, Alex Condon, the guys we really wanted back, obviously Ruben Chinyelo, but also supporting Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, and Will Richard along their journeys as well. So it's been great, just enjoying everything that comes with, I guess, winning a national championship. We went to the Wingfoot dinner in New York by the New York Athletic Club. We were presented with Coach Golden was presented with an award there, and then obviously the White House. So it's been a pretty fun offseason.
Has it started to set in yet, or you just been too busy to really kind of bask in what's been the last 7 weeks?
What's funny is when I got back in office last week, we had a little bit of downtime. I think that's when it kind of started to settle in after all the chaos of, again, getting the roster right. Finally got a chance to kind of look back, and I had a whole bunch of stuff at home that I want to, try to figure out what I'm going to put, articles, pictures, and all these things. And as I'm kind of going through it, I'm like, man, we really did that, And so that's when it really kind of started to settle in, looking back on the memories of what just happened 7-8 weeks ago.
It's interesting. I had the chance to meet with Todd Golden before the season started. He spoke at the Sarasota Gator Club, and we chatted for a while. And I don't think his expectations necessarily going into this season were that you guys were going to, win a national championship. I think he thought that you guys might be, unexpected to get to the second weekend, maybe be a 3 or 4 seed. There were some questions, he wasn't sure. At what point did you know, hey, we might have a team that can go all the way?
I thought we had a couple instances in my mind where I thought, man, we're pretty daggone good. The first one was beating Tennessee at home as soundly as what we did. Pretty unprecedented to be the number one, whether it be home or road like that. I thought we were pretty good at that point. And then, people were looking at the Auburn game, and that was obviously a benchmark, beating number one on the road in their facility. But it was really the Mississippi State game after Auburn, I thought, was when I was like, man, you know what? We got a lot of pieces here, and we are, deep, and we're tough, and we're still talented, even when we're down some bodies. Because if you remember in that game, Alex Condon essentially missed the whole game because he got hurt on the first offensive possession.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Martin didn't play. He was already ruled out. So we go into it, and, and once Alex goes down, Thomas comes up, and, he's obviously a starter-level player, so we didn't miss a beat there. Denzel Aberdeen was in a really good groove, as was Walt. Ruben was great that night. Everybody played their roles, and I thought to myself, if we can stay healthy with the depth of this team, we could, beat anybody. And sure enough, we only lost one more game after that Mississippi State game, ended up going on a huge run.
Did your experience as a player that played in the tournament and pulled off a couple upsets yourself, did that experience help you with coaching the players and mentoring them throughout this run?
I guess yes and no. I think every experience that you have throughout life, kind of prepares you for something like this. So I would say yes. The other part of it, too, is, I've been doing it for such a long time. And those tournaments I played in were back in the early 90s. So not a lot of people would remember us beating St. John's in 1992 or Kansas State in 93, and me as a player at that time. But what I did take from it was, my experience of being at Oklahoma, winning games in the tournament with the Sooners, but also looking down the bench at Torian Green as somebody who has, been able to do it, at the highest of high levels as a player, for so long, here at Florida. And just knowing that, we had somebody who's been to the second weekend, the third weekend, and won the whole thing, because there's layers to this thing. Like, quite frankly, I had only been past the first round. Actually, I had never been past the first round. I had been to the second round twice as a player and 4 other times as a coach. So, when we got through UConn and we're getting ready to play in San Francisco, that was all a new experience to me. So you really realize the importance of, how important Victor Lopez, our strength and conditioning coach, has been to us. The importance of, hydration, for these guys, the importance of eating correctly, the importance of recovery after games. And, credit to not just our guys for, being able to, go through that and put their bodies through, the ultimate test, but also to the support staff and the people that we've had around us on a daily basis.
I know you want to win absolutely every basketball game, right? And you never want to just kind of count your chickens before they hatch a little bit. But heading into the SEC tournament, and I know we were battling health all year. Are you going into that tournament game, into that SEC tournament thinking this is not a must-win tournament and we could probably, take our foot off the gas a little bit?
Nah, because like you said, you want to win every game. And at that point we had clinched the top 4 seed, so we knew that we only had 3 games to play. Versus the year before, we weren't a top 4 seed and we had 4 games, and that one extra game is a lot. So we thought, we had enough in the tank. We had some opportunities if we saw the opponents that we were able to see. 2 of those 4 we had already lost to, so we had built-in motivation in beating Missouri that first game, playing a tough Alabama team who we played really well against over the last couple years, and then having that rematch with Tennessee. We thumped them pretty good at our place. They thumped us really good at their place. Quite frankly, I don't think their players like our players very much, and that's just kind of what rivalries are. So we knew that, if we had gotten the matchups that we wanted, that we felt pretty comfortable that we can go in and win that thing.
Carlin, when you got hired, a lot of Gator fans were excited. You've consistently been ranked as one of the top, assistant coaches in college basketball, and widely considered one of the top player development coaches in the country. What is your personal secrets or your coaching style that gets so much out of players to develop them so well?
Well, number one, I think the fact that I did it when I played at Tulane, and I was able to carve out a Hall of Fame career there, and I played a little bit professionally. But I've been in it for so long. Confidence in just knowing that I know how to articulate the message from what our head coach wants to what we want to do on the floor. And then what? Honestly, Dan, transparency. I was always honest with the guys. I was always real with the guys. I keep it a buck, keep it 100. Whatever all these kids like to say. It just is what it is. Like, in a day in which, most of these kids make, so much more than what us as coaches make, I don't care. It doesn't matter what you make. It just matters about how you are going to perform when we get between those lines and when we practice. And I got the best front court in the country. I had the best front court in the country last year. I'm going to have the best front court in the country this year. And they are outstanding in so many different ways. But the biggest reason why they're great is because they're coachable, they're selfless, they have great attitudes, they're great workers, they love Florida, they love each other. And yeah, I saw the article when Alex Condon decided that he was going to come back, and he mentioned my name in that. And I really appreciate that, and it means a lot, but I don't think if I didn't have a good relationship with Alex off the floor as I do on the floor, I don't think it would, be as sincere as what it is with he and I, just like it is with Thomas Haugh, just like it is with Micah Handlogten, Ruben Chinyelo, Victor Meekid, Sam Alexis, these guys that I've had over the years, Tyrese Samuel, Colin Castleton, you got to build a bond. You got to build a relationship, and you got to have them trust you and trust that you're not bullshitting them and telling them the real. And then they'll give you everything they got.
How do you guys, this is like, I've been wondering, especially after this, because you guys were put under a short window with the transfer portal. So after you win the national championship, you still got to retool the roster a little bit. And I know in the recruiting world, it takes a little relationship building and trust building to get that kid. What is the recruiting process like and relationship building like in such a short window of trying to get a kid in the transfer portal?
A lot of stuff is done so far in advance, in this new world, you almost have to, because your point, Corey, it's like speed dating, right?
Right.
I mean, you're essentially like you got a window that you have to stick with. You got to get to know these kids. You got to get to know, the people that have been around them, in a short amount of time. And quite honestly, like we just have the best coach in America to deal with this climate in Todd Golden. What he's been able to do over these last few years, retooling the roster in year 2 to get us to the tournament. And then obviously to win that thing last year has been nothing short of just, genius. Him, Jonathan Safir, who also runs our, he's essentially our GM, assistant coach and GM. Those two guys have been just, remarkable when it comes to identifying the right pieces. Like you can go out and there's a lot of programs out there that have resources like we have and have the money that we have, and they're building these super teams on paper. But you got to still plug in the right pieces. Like Elijah Martin was ranked 133rd player in the transfer portal last year. Like, and you watch that guy play. Does he look like the 133rd ranked transfer player in the country?
No.
Yeah, I mean, like this guy was in a Final Four with FAU, was on the all Final Four team, was on an all region team, tough as a dog, gives you everything he has on the defensive end of the floor, can score on the other end consistently. And you think back to some of our tougher games in the tournament, we struggled against UConn, especially in that first half. Who showed up? Elijah Martin, because he had been there before. First half against Auburn, we're kind of feeling our way. Walt had a great game, of course. It was Elijah too. Elijah played well, And so I'm using him as an example because he gave us that toughness and that grit that we needed in the backcourt, whereas Chinyelu gave us that muscle, that we were lacking in a defensive presence that we didn't have the year before. So all these things happen for a reason in terms of who and how we pick the players. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, the character of the guys.
How do you guys determine that, especially in the transfer portal and during that, short window that you guys have?
We just talk a lot to the people that have been around them. Obviously, their agents are involved and so forth, but agents aren't on the ground floor with these kids. It's the head coaches or the assistant coaches, sometimes even the high school coaches, AU coaches. We're going all the way back to finding out what kind of character these guys have. And it matters to us, and you'll hear a lot of times, coach speak or certain cliches, you got to have, guys that have those great attitudes and so forth. No, we really sincerely mean that. We will pass on a really good talent in order to get the right fit for our program. Like we waited after we lost Aberdeen this year, we were able to, find a guy that, we really felt that we were really comfortable with. Even though it was late, we stuck with it. We developed a great bond, a great relationship with him, and we ended up getting Boogie, late in the game. And so I think a lot of that, because our reputation preceded ourselves from getting Zion Pullen when we got Zion. Betting on Walt as a guy that can complement Zion, and also play the point. Will and Elijah, they come from mid-major programs. Xavier, mid-major program. So we have proof of concept now, and we feel really good about, how we go about doing this thing, especially with the right people.
Were you guys surprised? Sorry to catch you kind of off guard here, switching subjects. Were you surprised when Denzel left, or in terms of your strategy? Yeah.
No, I mean, that was probably the one guy that we lost in our 3 years that didn't come down to just, wanting to be here, because he did, and so, these things are going to happen, in this day and age, unfortunately. But obviously we love him. We wish him nothing but the best. It was unbelievable getting a chance to spend time with him and see him at the White House.
Yeah.
Nobody, blinked an eye. Matter of fact, Walter Clayton was like, bro, you got to come here to DC and celebrate this with us because you're such a huge part of it. The guy scored the last point in the national championship game. You'll never forget that. You'll always appreciate him and always respect what he did for our program.
I wish him the best, Carlin, but we don't wish the Kentucky Wildcats the best at all, my guy.
Hell no. No, we play him. Shoot, we're going to try to blitz him and get that ball
Yeah.
out of his head.
Most importantly.
That's a greite soundbite. I appreciate it. I wanted to just go. I'm glad you asked that, Corey. I wanted to ask, I mean, because that I think speaks a lot to the unselfishness of the team as a whole, right? I think throughout the season, I mean, I think there was a point in time on this stat's wrong, if you know it, but I think there was a point in time where you guys had played 7 games and you had 7 different leading scorers of that game or of, each game. And so how do you guys get in a world where everybody's competing to get to that next level and everybody's trying to, up the bag in NIL or get to the NBA or whatever that is, how do you get them to buy into that unselfishness of, being a team in a world where everything seems to be very individualistic?
Yeah, you try to get them to – the summer times are huge. So we just started our workouts today, very first workout, and we'll really ramp it up as the summer goes on. But we'll also be really cognizant of the fact that we got a lot of guys that are going to be playing a lot of minutes, so we got to make sure that we're being smart with their time on the floor. But it's the summertime. That's where you get the bonding. That's where you get the the sense of togetherness and so forth. Again, a lot of coaching, a lot of cliche talk, but it's real stuff. We would have these 7 a.m. workouts on Fridays to close the week. And Coach Victor Lopez, our strength and conditioning coach, put us through all kinds of different stuff. Some of it was Navy SEAL training. Some of it was, the beep test that they do in the NBA. Mm-hmm. All these different things, and you can see the camaraderie. You can see the togetherness of our guys just coming together. And I think also, look at last year, we just had the perfect mix. Like Walt is an alpha, and everybody was cool with him being that way. We would have liked for Walt to take more shots, but Walt sometimes, kind of felt like, I can't shoot all the balls. Well, if you're open, yes, you can. But the point is, everybody was good with that. Everybody was good with Elijah, being that dog. He comes into our first workout in the summertime, and he's challenging dudes. He's calling guys out. So such and such, you got to go harder than that. You got to pick your head up when we're doing. And coaches, y'all got to get on us more. So he's, all about the accountability. Will Richard was the steadying piece and the voice. Not a lot of people know Will was the one that was, doing a lot of the talking in the huddles and behind the scenes. And, and again, our front court just kind of fit with everything. And, it starts in the summer, and it starts with, making sure that guys understand, what their roles are. We try to put it out there to them, just in terms of, hey, just do these things and you're going to have a chance to succeed, and for most part last year we did that, and we did it in spades.
Just speaking of roles, how do you see Haugh? That's my guy, 10. How do you see his role expanding next year and his development, progressing a little bit?
Tommy's awesome, man. That dude, let me tell you.
Yeah.
There were times when I thought he was, one of our top 2 or 3 guys. And for long stretches, quite frankly. You love him just as much as I love him, to be honest with you. When that joke was out on the floor, I mean, he can do so many different things. His versatility offensively is obvious, he puts you in situations where you gotta, if you're a big, you gotta come out, you gotta guard him. You do that, now he's gonna drive by you, or he keeps you in the offense. Him and Alex. That's one of the things. If you look at how good we were, is because if we have an initial play call and it doesn't work, well then we can just look to the middle of the floor and you know that Alex and Thomas are going to be there to be able to keep the action alive, and that just wears people down. Where Thomas's unbelievable value is, and people don't talk about this enough, is defensively, his versatility. He can switch 1 through 5 if need be. Confront the post, keep that thing out of there. He's an elite traffic rebounder. He's going in there against guys that are much bigger than him quite often than not, and he's always coming away with the ball. He's just a fantastic player. And when I saw him do his NBA Combine stuff with his agency out in Los Angeles and what he's come back with, he's going to have a very special year. He's going to be playing a lot more perimeter for us on the wing this year than he has in years past, where he was pretty much right in the middle of the floor. So we're going to move him around quite a bit, take advantage of his size, post him up a little bit against smaller guys. We'll do a lot of different things for him, but he's an unbelievable chess piece to have.
Definitely.
What's your favorite stadium to play in besides the O-Dome?
Favorite stadium to play in? We're talking obviously college basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you one. I had two in the Big 12. I'll give you one in the Big 12. Allen Fieldhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like one of the meccas of college basketball. And I'll give you another one here in the SEC. It's Auburn's arena. That one is awesome. Like you got 9,000 or however many seats, and it's like they're like literally the way the stadium is set up. It's like they're right on top of you, and you feel the tension. You feel like you're in for a long night every time you step foot on that floor.
Yeah, my guy Velo that partakes in our show, he went to the game when you guys play Auburn. He spoke well about that auditorium. What do you think about you're from a similar area as me, and ACC was king of basketball. SEC seemingly taking that crown a little bit in Florida, just like we did in football, led the way with Urban Meyer in that run. Todd Golden kind of kicked it off. Do you foresee the SEC being the king of basketball going forward?
I don't see why it will slow down at this point. I know it was unprecedented what we did last year. We had 14 out of 16 teams. But I don't know why that changes. I think we have some really, really great coaches in our league. Obviously, the resources in our league are great. A lot of it's because of football. We understand that. But the coaching in our league is phenomenal, fantastic. And the talent, in the areas in which the SEC are. I mean, you're talking about cities like Atlanta. Now you can stretch our thing all the way out to Houston and Dallas, Miami, Orlando. I mean, all these different, really good St. Louis, Kansas City, as far as the SEC can go, we can touch so many different states in this area. And I don't see why it changes. I really don't. Now, of course, the Big Ten will have a lot to say to that because they can, literally stretch across the country. But SEC basketball, I don't know why that's going to change, and it should be here to stay for a long time.
Perfect. Corey, you got any more questions before we let him get out?
Yeah, do you have any? It's my last one, man. Any comps for Cornelius Ingram, baby Ingram? What you have any player comps?
Oh, you're just gonna throw me right on the fire, huh? I mean, shoot. I haven't really thought about this one. He just looks like, one of those, North Carolina wings that, you see early on in their careers and then end up leaving early and going to play in the NBA for a long time. Maybe what would be a good comp for him? Because he's a great athlete, really good 3-and-D type guy. He's still working on some things offensively that we'll definitely be able to corral and be able to correct. Hey, you're gonna have to hit me with that a little bit later on.
No, that's all good.
Something here in the next 5 seconds. But
now you foresee him contributing as a freshman?
I think so. Yeah. Does everybody realize that this young man is only 17 years old?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be 18 until August. He's a special. I mean, a special talent. His athleticism is unmatched, and he's one of those quick twitch guys that if he makes a mistake, he can recover like nobody else can. Now he's a talent. We're excited about him. We're excited about Lloyd, Alex Lloyd, the kid we got from Westminster. We'll start playing a lot more 5-on-5 next week. But Alex gives us, a really big guard, another quick twitch athlete. Our athleticism is probably going to be even better moving forward in the backcourt. Now, what they're not gonna lack is the experience that Will and Elijah and Denzel brought to the table. But from an athletic standpoint, those dudes are gonna be pretty special. So
we had somebody in the chat drop Marvin Williams as a comp. I don't know enough about basketball.
Marvin Williams a lot taller, though, right?
That's what I said. Marvin Williams like 6'8". You know,
Yeah.
I was like Kobe White, that plays for the Bulls. Is that his name, Kobe White?
Yeah, I'm not mad at that comp. I gotta see more of his game. I know he's working on his jumper. I seen him a clip on Twitter where he was ripping off a lot of threes. And I didn't know he had that type of jumper. So I see he's working on that part of his game.
If you had saw him last year, he was playing in the June live period for his high school. And a lot of times, like, you know, we go out recruiting, you know, we go and watch AU teams play all in one. And so that's cool, you know, because it's like an all-star, you know, team, and they're not really together throughout the whole year. So in June, we get a chance to go see these guys play, you know, for their high schools. And CJ was with his in Atlanta, and he was unbelievable. Corey, I'm talking about, he was hitting from three. He was hitting in the mid-range, offensive rebounding, defensively, you know, just keeping the ball in front, blocking guys' shots, getting steals. And that's where you can kind of see, like, oh, man, this guy's got some, like, legit upside and some real talent that can help, you know, a program like ours. So we're fortunate that the guy was in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
and the son of a Gator.
Yeah. He almost had no choice but to be a Gator. If he didn't want to be a Gator, his ass was going to be a Gator.
Speaking of shooting threes, there was a video that surfaced of Ruben wet behind the three. How many we think we're going to put him back there and shoot up some threes this season?
Could you imagine
No.
Ruben trailing and letting that thing go while his man is in the paint waiting for him to come down there? Now, in all seriousness, we're going to let him let that thing fly a little bit.
There you go.
If it's the right shot and if it's a step-in shot, I ain't going to sit there and say that we're going to start running like, you know, like staggers away from Ruben.
Set the screen for Ruben.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But if he's stepping in, he's pretty daggone good right now at it. You know,
okay.
We actually had our shooting workout today. He shot it well again today. So, you know, no, I'll tell you one thing: never discount Ruben Chinyelu. Man, that dude is unbelievable, incredible worker, incredible attitude. I got on him at halftime of the Final Four game against Auburn. Dude just came up and he just took another level in his play in the second half and wore Janai down. And it was beautiful to see.
It's incredible. Well, Carlin, man, we appreciate you for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you and Jonathan last week, man. Congratulations on everything. I didn't know you guys started actual practice today, so your time to celebrate is limited, man. But it's
back in the lab.
I tell people all the time, I'm not the world's biggest basketball fan. I was just bad at it growing up. But this was my favorite national championship just to watch, just because of how unselfish and just kind of how unexpected and how cool it was to watch a team come together, man. So, Carlin, we appreciate having you on the show, and hopefully we can get you guys on in the future and say hello to Portal God Todd for us.
We'll say hello to Todd. Corey, I'm going to have a better comp for you than for CJ next time we talk. I'm gonna work on it too. I'm gonna have better comps for everybody. So I'm gonna come prepared.
Okay.
Next time, just throw out a guy. I'm gonna have a comp for him.
No, all good, man. I appreciate you for pulling up.
I got one for Thomas Haugh.
Who you got?
Tom Gugliotta.
Tom Gugliotta. You know who I said? But I said I caught some.
You're gonna say Karolinko. You're gonna say Karolinko, aren't you?
No, I got caught some flack for this, and you might think I'm crazy, but I said I think he's Dennis Rodman with a better offensive game.
Oh shoot, okay, I'll take that.
That ain't bad, right?
That ain't bad at all. Because he comes and he goes and flies and gets rebounds out of his area like nobody's business.
Yeah. He's gonna scrap on defense. He's gonna rebound. Like you say, he can switch 1 through 5. Like all of those attributes are things that Dennis just didn't have the offensive game. And he had a lot of shenanigans. You know, 10's a little bit more chill, but I think it's a lot of like intangibles that he brings to the game, similar to Dennis Rodman.
Respect on that one. Okay, I'm gonna get everybody else ready though.
All right.
Appreciate it. We'll have you on soon. Thanks so much, Carl. Have a great night.
Hey, you guys have a good night. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, likewise, man.
Bye-bye. Carlin Hartman, always a pleasure to talk Gator hoops. And thanks so much to him and to Jonathan for joining last week. It's really cool to get their inside basketball point of view.
Man, I'm excited about the basketball team, bro. They just retooled. You know, it should be another fun basketball season. following a good football season is what I'm predicting, bro. Like the vibes is on the up and up, bro. But it's basketball